Hi and welcome to a Memories Made video. I'm designer Jen Gallacher, and in these videos I typically share a scrapbooking process video, but I thought it might be fun to break it up a little bit and talk about mini albums. Now, I don't make mini albums all the time. Usually it's for a special event, but I think they're a great way to share your stories. So I'm going to show you very quickly 2 accordion albums that I have created to show you one way that you can create albums quickly and fairly easily. So let's start with this one right here. It is about 6 by 6, or maybe it's even 5 by 5. I'm not sure exactly. Now, this particular album came this way, meaning it was already set up and ready to go. You can look for albums like this by searching your favorite online or local scrapbooking store by searching accordion albums. So look for a basic one. This particular one has a cream background. And what I did is I pre-made the pages and then I stuck them on because it allowed me to do some things. So let's run through this album, and I want you to be thinking about ways that you can use some of these techniques to create your own albums. So the first thing that I want you to notice is that I layered pattern paper together and I stitched them together. Now, I didn't want to do this directly onto the page because then when you turn it over, you could see the stitching. So sometimes when you're doing a technique like sewing, you need to think ahead and think, will this show on the other side? You'll notice throughout the album that I've turned all my photos to a sepia color, and I did that using my Photoshop. If you like this look, you can ask your photo developer to develop your photos as sepia. This was for the browns that you see throughout this collection. I have an old canvas tag here that I had, as well as some bingo cards, and this is the title, or rather bingo letters. This is the title of the album, and it's about goals that I have. And I've wrapped a ribbon around it, and you can see I've added a little baby blue safety pin to it. I also added a bit of texture with this textured piece of cardstock. You could get the same effect by using an embossing folder if you desire. So each of the pages were created so that they're slightly smaller than the album pages themselves, so I always have a border around them. So you can see when I open this up, there's 2 different types of journaling that I did. One was with alphabet stamps, and I used brown stamping ink. And the other one, I actually used a label maker. And these are fun, and you can find them at any office store, but it brings in a little bit of texture. Now, you can get the label in any color that you want. You just need to check with your manufacturer. This one happens to be black with white writing, and it is raised. And you simply click in the journaling that you want to say. It prints it out, and then it has a peel apart adhesive on the back, and you just stick it on. Again, you can see both photos have been turned to sepia, and then there are wooden elements throughout the entire album. Again, I've used some of the same colors and papers throughout the collection, or rather the album. This is a great way to create an album, is to pick ahead of time one color scheme. And by turning the photo sepia, this will allow it to match your color scheme. On the final 2 pages, I used a larger wooden alpha, and you can find these sometimes at Michael's and Joann's. Just look for either chipboard or wooden elements. And then I finished the title. The D is for the word dream big. And then you can see each of the photos is about me in the photo, and then there might be other people. Again, the label maker for the journaling, and some Scrabble tiles this time to spell out the words. So look for ways that you can combine them. And then this is just really quick and easy. I did not do the other side, but you could. I simply wanted to do just a few pages. And you can determine how many pages depending on what you have to say. So let's talk about the second album. Now, this particular one is the same size, but I also did the back pages on this one. Now, again, I used some of the same techniques. I pre-made the pages, and then I adhered them to the Accordion Fold album. And I did some of the same techniques. I again picked a color scheme that kind of matched this background pattern paper that has lime greens and a baby blue and a pink, and then a great craft. Now, the escape word was stamped with Versamark ink and then embossed with a clear embossing powder, while this particular daisy stamp was stamped with Versamark ink, and I used white embossing powder, so you'll see stamping throughout. And then I added some pink buttons and some twine for texture. Now in this particular album, I pre-printed my journaling, and then I came back in and I added some stamping. First, print out your journaling, allow it to dry. It doesn't take very long when you're using just a typical photo printer or regular printer. Once it is dry, then you can stamp with Versamark ink. If you do it too quickly, sometimes when you go to add the embossing powder, it will try to emboss the printed words that you've used. But you can see I've added this little item right here. It's kind of a leaves or wheat sheaves or something like that. Again, buttons. And then to point out the different things that I wanted to talk about, I used brads. So each line of text is highlighted with brads. This particular album is talking about how I have escaped, maybe not to all the places in the world that I want to visit, but I have had my own adventures here. I included my lifetime travel goals, including Paris. I want to speak French, see the Eiffel Tower, and enjoy French cuisine, which I had the opportunity to do. And I will be doing this South Africa goal later this year. So 2 goals, and the rest are I want to visit Ireland and eventually French Polynesia. And my list gets longer. So the next page actually talks about French Polynesia and how I haven't been there yet, but I have experienced living by a beach. Again, this particular item here at the bottom is a stamp, and you can use any stamp, and it is embossed with clear embossing powder. And then I want to point out that this particular flower is folded in half. You just fold it in half, and then I put the button on top of it. Now, the papers in this particular album do not come from one collection. They simply match the initial color scheme. I first picked one piece of pattern paper, and then from there I shot my stash to find pieces that would match as well as embellishments. So that's one way to approach this. The next page talks about how my South African safari, which I have not yet gone on, is similar to going to a zoo, and I talk about what it was like to go. I wanted to remind myself that even though sometimes I haven't been able to do things, I'm still having a great life. Now again, there is a backside to this particular album different from the first one. And here, this one talks about my Parisian escape, and it's not quite as awesome as my real Paris trip, but I did go down to Vegas, and we went through the miniature Eiffel Tower and the Parisian hotel down there, and that was lots of fun. And I talk about that here on this side. You'll notice that many of the pages have stitching, twine, and buttons. One way to quickly put together an album is to simply use the same style of embellishments throughout. Again, stamping on both sides. I like the uniform look of albums that repeat techniques. One way to fill up a page is to use a larger photo, and you can either have a photo that's pre-printed, say a 5x7, or else you could use a 4x6 and then simply crop off any excess pieces. But you can fill up an entire page with a photo if you want. This border is actually embossed as well. And then this one talks about my trip to Ireland. I have a daughter with Irish eyes, and we do have Irish heritage in our ancestry, and so I talk a little bit about that. So both albums were quickly put together. Both of them took me about 4 hours to complete. This one took a little bit longer, and this one took a little bit less. But if you establish beforehand the theme, the color scheme, the techniques, and the photos that you want to use and the journaling, you just kind of plan it out, it goes together really quickly. If you like these mini albums, be sure to visit my playlist titled Mini Album a Month. I do have several albums that I created for a 2-piece class, which you can watch from my playlist here on my YouTube channel. Be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel so you don't miss out on any of the scrapbooking process videos, as well as additional videos that I share.